everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'm Reina Creole. Looks like I'm podcasting with Professor X back there. He likes to video bomb my my stream. So the two of us are very grateful to have Jonas Campbell of the Park Place here on the Audience with the Queen podcast. How are you doing, my dear?
I am honored to be here, my liege.
You.
Wow, I'm so like tickled pink, honored, ecstatic to be here today talking with you, Lorena. I'm just so glad to be here today.
Well, I'm glad finally to have you on the show. I'm glad you could make time to pop on because there's so much that I want to talk to you about. Now, I know your YouTube channel is fairly recent,
hmm
but it turns out that you've been producing for Valiant Renegade and for WDW Pro. So, how did those two things come about?
I think I probably made enough comments on Valiant's channel and on the That Park Place comment section enough, and maybe I sent Pro some emails to say, "Hey, this thing right here." One of the earliest instances is he had an article about something that they said it was the return of Push the Trash Can at Walt Disney World.
Hmm.
It's technically a walk around character, and it used to be there used to be another talking trash can, and I'm already going deep Disney here.
Oh,
Uh, there
that's okay. We like that on this channel. Go ahead.
so there's a walk around character that was not safe for magic. If you want to hear this part, skip ahead 5 seconds. It's run by a guy with a microphone that's standing somewhere near the trash can, and it says sassy things to all the people who go by.
Hmm.
Well, the article was saying Push has returned, and it was a trash can that if you put something in it, there was a little sound thing, and they were all pre-recorded, and they would say something about I don't know, eating something or getting showered with garbage or something like that. That trash can used to be an electric umbrella, and now I believe it's in Connections Cafe. Haven't been back to the park in a little while, but it was generally in that walking in the left hand side of Epcot. So he wrote an article saying Push is coming back, and I sent him an email saying respectfully. And from there, we kind of bridged into some more things. I sent him some business analysis, and it all branched out from there. So starting with Pro and being in the audience in Valiant, and I'm lucky enough that they've invited me on, and I guess this is a thing we're all doing together now. So very fortunate for me, at least.
Oh, well, very. I was extremely honored to get a invite extended to me to join WW Pro's show live and to find out that you were the producer of the show. I'm like, this is great. We're in
Well, of course,
great
Lorena.
company.
I believe that was one of those you're always welcome on the show type invitations. So yeah, anytime you want to come on the Pro Show, you just let us know, and I think we'll be reaching out when things come up too. Of course.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. I thoroughly enjoy jumping on there, especially to talk Disney, talk pop culture. It's like I tell people, I keep it real when it comes to Disney, and I do not snort the pixie dust, but I am very well aware of the power that has. So
hmm Yeah, I've
I make
wondered
sure to make a
myself.
distinction.
Yeah, I've wondered myself how much pixie dust was I snorting back in the era when I thought Iger walked on water. He,
Oh,
he did so well for so long, and I disliked
he did.
Eisner so much by the end. I remember sitting down next to somebody, and they told me, "Hey, Roy Disney just resigned from the board." I was like, "What?" And and then of course a few months later, Pixar was being bought by Disney, and it was like, "What? What is this amazing thing? We're not going to see Toy Story 4 being made by some random Disney Toon arm of the company. This is fantastic." It's a very different place. Actually, there's some similar things between that era of Disney and where we are now, which,
Hmm.
if we're not careful, maybe we'll be back there. I don't know.
It's it's one of those very strange things because I know with the Eisner era, I'm just familiar with a lot of what I would call like the Disney Renaissance when it came to
Hmm.
their animation. So I wasn't really too involved or interested that much in the politicking kind of that was going on between like him and Iger and all of that. That just pretty much went over my head probably because I was in college at that time.
Hmm.
So I was kind of focused on other stuff. But once Pixar got bought by Disney, that was when I started making enough money where it's like, okay, I'm going to buy stock. What stock do I want? Yeah, I'm going to buy Disney.
Hmm.
Okay. So bought Disney stock, and from then I think is when I started to pay a bit more attention to what was going on with the Disney company. With every trip that I was taking to Disney World, I was paying more and more
Hmm.
attention to what was going on. Most notably, I want to say the decline by degrees, very,
Hmm.
very gradual, kind of like boiling a frog, or a crab. I've seen that illustration in person a lot. Just the changes that were happening, little tiny things that just started to get bigger and bigger and bigger, like John Lasseter leaving. And
Hmm.
I don't understand why some folks do not realize important um, how important that was. And I'm sorry to take up the air a lot with this,
No,
but
no, I love it.
like Toy Story, when that movie came out, it wasn't just about marketing to kids. There were adults that remembered those particular
Hmm.
types of toys. And then to see a story weaved around how those toys would behave, and granted, technology was just let's say, a tool
Hmm.
to tell the story. And it seemed like everything John Lasseter put out, and he would talk about his love for Disney, he would talk about his story of being a cast member. All of that was the magic that was wrapped up in was John Lasseter. So once he got kicked out, and I will say that, a lot of us were like, okay, this is not good
Right, right.
on so many levels. Why the heck is this happening? And a lot of say some casual viewers, Pixar diehards like myself were like, okay, well, if he left, guess what? I'm not interested in anything Pixar has to uh, has to put out.
Yeah.
And from that time, you just saw it. Everything Pixar, we'll say the Pete Docter era of
Hmm.
it
And
just
Pete
got
Docter did
worse.
some great. I will say Pete Docter did some great work under John Lasseter.
Yes.
And I don't know what it was about what he was doing that Lasseter was able to just push it in the right areas and say, okay, saw this off, maybe push this more. And I'm just speculating. I obviously wasn't in the I wasn't in the storyboard meetings or anything like that. But as he's become the man in charge of everything else, it just seems like those moments of just pure, unadulterated, dramatic, emotional, wonderful, sad joy all at the same time, that those just get fewer and far between. You think about a lot of the press from Disney before Lasseter was let go, they talked about him like he was the second coming of Walt Disney. Walt Disney was
Mm-hmm.
in charge of the first hand-drawn animation feature-length cel-shaded, since obviously there was something over, I think it was in Turkey, that was actually technically feature-length and animated, but the first one that anyone really cares about. And then Lasseter coming through and pushing for CGI and the first fully computer-generated feature-length film. And guess what? It
Mm-hmm.
was fantastic. And you have this fantastic allegory. I'm going to use the word fantastic too much. I can already tell you now.
That's okay.
Fantastic allegory of toys and their role with kids. And as a dad looking at this thing, it's like the toys are the parents in some way, and the toys have to realize that they are no longer in the place that they feel like they need to be. They've already done everything they need to do for Andy, and so they need to let go of Andy. And I'm like, wow, just thinking about this scene at the end of Toy Story 3, where every one of
Oh.
and I'm religious. There's a passage in the Bible where God says, to receive your reward, to say, "Well done, good and faithful
A faithful
servant."
servant.
I
Yes.
think of Andy picking up Rex and saying, Rex, who has struggled with confidence and all of this, to say, "Oh, Rex is the most fearsome dinosaur," and I just think to myself, "Oh man, I wish I was Rex right now." It's just, I tear up thinking about this wonderful conclusion, and then there's a Toy Story 4. It's like, what are you doing, guys? And now there's going to be a Toy Story 5. We're at the Hunchback of Notre Dame 2 territory here when we talk about these
Yes,
things.
Cinderella 3.
Mm-hmm.
I won't count Lion King 1.5 because that was actually good. I was surprised with that one.
Oh yeah, it's got Jerry Stiller in it. Jerry Stiller is the bomb, and Nathan
Oh yeah,
Lane. Skills right there. So they
absolutely.
walk out. Really, if you could take that guy and make him the head of the company, or put him in charge of all the creative decisions, he was the chief creative officer, they would have this wonderful narrative flow through of, look, we've got our next Walt Disney, but he hugged too much, and when he got drunk, apparently he hugged way too much. But there's no forgiveness for that. There's no 6 months away and you come back and we fix it and do better. They
Hmm.
were at a time politically when there is no path to redemption. Hopefully we've gotten past that to the point. Obviously, anyone who did anything that was criminal needs to be prosecuted. Hard stop
Right.
there. Uh, but now he's over at Skydance, and the reports about Spellbound, which he didn't direct, he is back in a executive producer role, but he's got more time on his hands. It sounds like it's going to be pretty good. It sounds a lot like the Renaissance era, the second Renaissance era of Disney.
Especially with the voice challenge
Mm.
that they have. Because I'm like, okay, I know them. Jennifer Lewis is coming back. That. I mean, every single person that they had
Mm-hmm.
listed as voice talent were heavy hitters. But to like rewind back a little bit,
Oh, please.
when
Yeah,
I
go ahead.
heard that John Lasseter was at Skydance and he brought some of the heavy hitter directors from Pixar along with him. Brad Bird went with
Mm-hmm.
him. I'm blanking on who the other one was, but top notch, the ones that
Mm-hmm.
put out like the hits with Pixar, because like you were saying, Jonas, with John Lasseter, he was like the creative head. He had like the heart and soul. To him, it was, what kind of story are we telling? Is that a story worth telling? I tell people a primary example of that. The first 10 minutes of Up
Oh,
is probably some of the best storytelling I have ever seen.
so beautiful. So
And
beautiful.
I remember seeing that with my niece. She was about 5. She was about 5. And she turned to me after those 10 minutes, and I'm like trying not to tear up. She looks and she says, "Wow, Carl really loved Ellie."
Oh my. Oh,
I'm
don't get
like,
me.
I'm about to lose it right right now. The fact that a little kid who has an idea about families and
Mm-hmm.
about married couples who love each other
Mm-hmm.
can tell from 10 minutes of some material that was a little bit over her head, but
Yeah.
she understood like the reactions of the characters, the sadness, the hopefulness, all of that in 10 minutes. And to go to Toy Story 3, I don't know anybody else. We were just like, if you didn't cry or
Mm-hmm.
about to cry at the end of Toy Story 3, you had absolutely no soul
Mm.
whatsoever because of how powerful that movie was. Now with Skydance, the first movie, I think it was around when John Lasseter got there, so he wasn't
Mm-hmm.
100% in it, but I think he got producer credit, was a film called animated film called Luck,
Mm-hmm.
which was okay, and it had a really good story about, a girl who was in foster care and she aged out, and she was trying to give hope to another, little girl, because her home visit didn't go very well, and she's like, well, you'll get a family, and she's like, how do you know you didn't get one? And she's like, yeah, but that's me. We're talking about you. And
Oh,
just the hopefulness that was in that
yeah.
in that one. I mean, granted, not the best one, but still, the story made you want to watch. And I think with Disney, and I agree with John Lasseter gone, and without John Lasseter as that checkpoint to say, is it a good story? Is it good art? Is it something that's going to advance storytelling? Is there a human element to make people want to watch? Without that, we get stuff like Toy Story 4, Onward was kind of okay,
Hmm.
Turning Red was crap. Yes,
Yeah.
Turning Red was absolute
Yeah.
crap. And that creative force is gone over there. So now it's over at Skydance, and I'm so looking forward to what Lasseter does over there.
Well, and to just even add to that, of course, at that point, Lasseter was the head of Disney Animation as well, and the string of Disney movies has just been just a roll down the hill, just waiting for it all to, I guess, go into a ravine somewhere. And
Hmm.
Strange World, I love Disney, and I was hard on Strange World, um, obviously, but that is a movie that really struggled to show anyone that they had value. Um, there's no one that grew, only that people grew to realize that they were not important, which is it's just a painful idea to think. It's not that it's not like the toys have done their job and so they need to restart it with another girl, Bonnie. Adorable. Man, my goodness. That's one thing Disney can do. They can make an adorable little kid character. Uh,
Hmm.
they've got practice on that one. But the main character, I think his name is Searcher. Yes. The only thing he realizes, actually, I think he steps to the side. I don't think he even realizes anything. The dad, who's a side character, becomes a
Hmm.
farmer, and the gay son gets in a relationship and realizes there's going to be a new world after this obvious stand-in for fossil fuels goes away. Which it's like, okay, Fern Gully was great. I guess I liked that as a kid. Avatar apparently did it better. I'm not a huge Avatar fan, but
Neither am
you know,
I.
um, it's not great as an environmental allegory, which seems to be the primary focus, and it's not great as an emotional story of a family. There's just there's no through line in the film to make us go, I can see who this guy is, I can see who he wants to be, and I can see that he either got there or realized he needed to be something else. None of that made it into the film. It just filled time. And even though I spent hours looking at that film, I still there's a lot that's forgettable about it.
That was a film that I had zero interest
Hmm.
in watching, and I love animation. Um, but that one, I looked. I'm just like, who is this for? If anything, this just looks like an agenda piece. There's nothing that makes me want to check it out,
Hmm.
or look at it. So literally, I didn't pay it any attention whatsoever. So that went off the radar. Lightyear,
Lightyear.
God, where do I start? I'm like, with Lightyear, it's like, look, we know Tim Allen is Buzz Lightyear.
Hmm.
That's who we expect to see. If you saw the ad for the toy, which you saw in Toy Story 2, if you saw the animated Disney series for Buzz Lightyear, that's what I thought we were gonna get.
Hmm.
Something
That would be
kind of
great.
like that. It's, yeah, we would have been able to see that on screen, and all of it would tie in and make sense. Why they decide, well, I have my own ideas as to why they decided to cast Chris Evans as Buzz Lightyear. It's just like, it makes zero sense.
Hmm.
The story, from what I understood, really didn't make that much sense. And judging by the trailer, I'm like, I'm not interested. No Tim Allen, I'm not interested. The
I
kids know Buzz Lightyear as Tim Allen.
Yeah, and if you look at Toy Story 1 and 2, it's very obvious that whatever story Buzz Lightyear was involved in, they were joking a lot about Star Wars. And while
Mm,
Buzz Lightyear is not Luke Skywalker, it's very obvious that this was supposed to be something like Star Wars, a classic defeat of evil story. Um, but in this version of Star Wars, we find out that Buzz is actually the evil person and that he has to defeat himself. And what does evil Buzz want to do? He wants to matter. It was so heavy-handed. They use the word matter, and they know that it was a buzzword. We are supposed to matter. They use it about 100 times. Did she matter? Oh, just I think a dozen times in 120 minutes. They just keep going back to these they're trying to say, okay, we want to remind you of the politics of today, or if you're a child, the politics of today that you will eventually be learning about, and emphasize these points about who who matters, who doesn't, who needs to step aside. And I I don't mind. I mean, the I'm not a racist card is a very difficult one to play these days. So good job on them for firmly establishing that everyone has to like prove that they're not a racist until proven otherwise. Um, but it very much comes from a place of this one white character doomed everyone, and then he needs to get out of the way to realize they've built a better world without him. And I'm just left shrugging as to why Andy in 1995 would have loved this story. He doesn't triumph over evil. He
Mm-hmm.
barely accepts that he could have maybe saved the day, except that the granddaughter of the greatest space ranger ever, the black lesbian lady, the granddaughter's not a lesbian,
Mm-hmm.
but she comes in and she's like, no, we can do it. We can stop Zurg. She's the real hero here as Buzz is trying to retreat. And then they end saluting the black lesbian hero. They would have done better if they just made the movie about um, Alicia Hawthorne, the black lesbian hero, because
But
it
that
would
would
have.
require work.
Yes, it would. They would have to establish from scratch a grand mythology, and they still would have stepped onto a ideological landmine there to say that they're making their main character a lesbian. But at the same time, they could have actually made something that if their intention here is to try to normalize something to parts of the country that don't feel like this is normalized, make great art that relates to people. Don't make mediocre corporate art that tells them that they're evil.
And I 100% agree. And this is a lot that I've had to push back on with respect to this. I don't even want to call it entertainment. Like I guess entertainment, or we'll say propaganda disguised as entertainment. I will actually go there. Um,
Yeah.
like yeah. I will actually actually we'll go there with that. It used to be that art wasn't put there to preach to you. And if it did, it was kind of like layered in there, kind of
Hmm.
subtly, in there. If you had to save the whales, message, go hug a tree, whatever. If it was a good movie, nobody cared, really. They were just like,
Hmm.
yeah, it's a good film. It's got this and it's got that in it. It's okay. But there is just this concerted effort now to paint minorities as victims, fathers as stupid,
Hmm.
uh, mothers as all knowing, women can't, do anything wrong. And, whatever your sexual orientation is more important than what's going on in the particular story. And that's not how art used to be. When you talk about villains, used to be everybody was an equal opportunity villain.
Hmm.
It
Yeah.
was the white guy, black guy, Asian guy, whatever. The villain was just the villain of the story. That's what it was. But now it's to the point where it's ridiculous, and I find it interesting how they will do this stuff, like with Lightyear. It's like, how is that supposed to be appealing?
Hmm.
You think it's appealing that we're interested, in a lesbian character, not in a character who happens to be that?
Right. Right.
Because the reality is, it's like, okay, the reality is, it's like you do have some families that are like that, but it's just a fact. It's not a propaganda point,
Hmm.
to make. And it's one thing when you're marketing it to adults, because that's been out there for quite
Right.
some time.
Right.
But when you start pushing that on children, that is when you cross the line.
Agreed. Agreed. And I'll say I think that Bob Chapek, whether he meant to, if it, for those who believe that Bob Chapek was playing 4D chess, okay, maybe this is a moment where he was intentionally doing it or otherwise. But putting that lesbian kiss back into Lightyear made that the headline as opposed to the low quality and themes of the film. If that kiss was not in there, we would be talking about the lesbian pregnancy. And if we weren't talking about the lesbian pregnancy, which is essential to the plot anyways, we would be talking about the fact that Buzz Lightyear is just a sad sack who needs to make up for his, I'll just say it, for his whiteness. Now, the next video that's coming out on my channel, I hate to plug myself, but
Oh no, that's
conversationally,
what this show is for.
well, I appreciate it. But Moon Girl Part 2 will be coming out on my channel on Wednesday. And I haven't, there is so much great about that show. And then there's so much that is like, that is not okay about that show. First of all,
I'm gonna
these,
bring this up actually.
ah, there
'Cause
it is.
I just watched this.
Mhm.
And I'm watching, I'm like, okay, that's okay. All right. They're pretty good so far.
And I try to say
Uh,
it's good when they do good things. I'm trying to say, yes, a nuclear black family that is everyone is there. You got a mom, you got a dad, you have a grandfather and a grandmother, and the mother is great. The father is well intentioned, although he's always the dumb one. They got to have at least somebody be dumb. The
yeah,
grandfather's a little crazy. That's not uncommon, but if you're going to pick the
no,
grandfather being crazy or the grandmother being crazy, they're automatically going to say the grandfather's crazy. The grandmother character, played by Alfre Woodard, oh man, she's great. I mean, there are these wonderful, wise things that she says in the show that I'm just, oh, it's so perfect. But then you have a non-binary computer. Tell me how that works with the digital architecture of a computer. Uh, you have everybody is listing their pronouns. You have two gay dads, which they always make at least one of the gay dads Jewish. I don't know why that is, but this is 2 series in a row. But every single villain that is not every, sorry, I need to restate this because somebody got on me online because I said all the white people in this are criminals or supervillains, and somebody said there aren't any blacks. Look, there's a black supervillain. I said all the white people are criminals or supervillains.
mm-hmm,
By the end of this show, there is literally gentrification as the villain of the last episode that's out right now. They're going to release another 4 this month, so there probably will be a Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur Everything Woke Part 3. But Moon Girl makes a deal with 2 white tech people who have their own self-driving car company that they're trying to put out. So there's another take that in there. That
mm-hmm.
their great villainous device silences diverse voices. The white people are still able to speak, but the diverse people in the Lower East Side of Manhattan are not able to speak. And the video ends, I'll just say, the video ends showing a shot of everyone cheering, and there's not a white person in sight. I, I I'm not personally like thinking I'm not personally offended by this, but at the same time, it
Mm-hmm.
makes it very clear the perspective of whether or not I am welcome, or whether or not, I'll say it better, whether or not my children are welcome in whatever world they're trying to portray here. It is so painful to watch them weaponize blackness to say that black people are heroes and therefore I am the villain and therefore black people need to be afraid of me. What? I don't want to tell that to my kids. Why would I let my kids watch this? Which is otherwise a great show about a nuclear. Lawrence Fishburne has a song in the Beyonder
Oh,
episode that is just so good. He's so fantastic. It is delicious. There are moments where there's Days of Future Past references, and the Beyonder Symphony is Symphony number 616. Oh, that's a deep cut right there. But I, I can't let them. I can't let them eat from the poison tree. Um, I want them to love themselves as children of God, and this wants
mhm.
them to hate themselves as children of a white guy. Like I don't know. I just don't understand the philosophy that says it is okay to say that an entire race of people is inherently evil.
And it's not. And here's the other part that really, really irritates me. My nieces and nephews are biracial.
Mm-hmm.
My brother-in-law is white. Oh, you just call them like, yeah, it's like, yeah, you're white, bread white, right? It's we would just make jokes about that all the time. But when I sit with them and and I watch this, and not to get too personal, but I will tell this story because I think that it's very important. My niece, who now she's 10, I think she was about 8, and in her I think in her first grade class or something like that, or second grade class, the teacher, they were talking about family history. Of course, the assignment, find out about your family, so say things about your family. And one aide turned to her and said, "Oh, well, you're mixed." Not factual, like your mom's dad, your mom's black, your dad's white. It's going to be really cool seeing what you come up with about
Uh-huh.
your family. It was just basically, "Oh, well, you're mixed."
Oh
And
man.
she came home crying. My sister
Oh.
called me upset, and I'm like, "Okay, I don't know, why you guys didn't have this conversation with her earlier. I don't know. That's neither here nor there."
Mm-hmm.
But when I talked to my niece, I said, whether that teacher meant to or not, she made it seem the fact that your father was white was somehow detrimental to you, that you were less than. And
Oh
that is
no.
not. And that is not how that works. So that made me twice as angry
Mm-hmm.
because I was angrier than my sister was. And then we watch these things on television where they're basically will paint all white people is bad, all white people is villains. You can't trust them, you can't do whatever. And my young nieces and nephews are watching this and they're thinking, is my father bad? Is, this part of me,
Oh man.
bad as someone, as someone who's biracial, and they're little and they're watching this. Granted, it's horrible for any kid,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, when they're pumping this propaganda out because they are. It's not about education. Like I'll back up. Back when the Proud Family was good, because there
Mm-hmm.
was a time when it was good, and when they would teach lessons about racism, it was very factual and, well, at least we're not like this, now. We
Mm-hmm.
have all different kinds of friends, and it was very positive depiction as opposed to the trash they have on there now. I watched it, and then I told my sister, I said, "No, don't watch it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not what we remember." And it also makes me angry that you have a company like Disney who has a heritage of very positive family entertainment. Now it's pushing this propaganda out, which makes my nieces and nephews feel like they're less than. Who seems to paint black kids as victims and white kids as, oh, well, you have to watch out for them and demonize them. And to me, that frankly, that's unforgivable. I'll go out on a limb and say that it's unforgivable, it's unexcusable.
Mm-hmm.
But you have a group of people out there in entertainment, and they need to kick them out, which is why some other independent companies are doing much better. For some reason, think that this is okay, and they
They
don't see anything
absolutely.
wrong with it.
They need to seize the opportunity. The smaller companies need to seize the opportunity because it doesn't, other than being Alan Menken, you don't need to be Alan Menken to make an Alan Menken score. I know, obviously, you don't have his brain, you don't have his talent, whoever's out there, but you've got your talent. You go out there and you do it. Um, the thing that pains me the most is isn't it actually a beautiful thing to have a biracial person, because it means that two races came together. If we want to say everything is a social construct these days, I would say race is a social construct. At this point, there are different cultures, and okay, sometimes those cultures line up with skin tones, but race itself is just something. I mean, I always like when somebody comes after me and says, "Oh, you're a racist, and Jesus was not a white guy." I'm like, okay, well, you think this is I've been around a little while. This is not the first time it's occurred to me that some artistic representations of Jesus from the 16th century or something like that
Hmm.
might have been a little off. I always like to come back with, I worship a brown-skinned man from the Middle East. So how are you going to tell me I'm racist? One day, all of us will be a beautiful shade of brown. That's what I think. 100 years from now, we're going to be like, what are races? Uh, I know that's a silly idea at the same time, but it's like, who cares? I like it tan. Uh, I wish I had one.
I think a lot of it has to do, and you're right about race being a social construct, mainly because of due to colonization here in the Americas.
Hmm.
My name, Reina Creole. My family's been here ever since Columbus landed in the Caribbean. That's pretty much it. Um, One of the craziest days of my life was taking a DNA test and realizing I had all this input from Lily all over,
Awesome.
all
Awesome.
over, and finding that out and
Well, I
learning
hope
the
that's awesome. I don't
story
want to
of.
presume.
Hmm?
I hope that's awesome. I don't want to presume.
Yes, of course it is. Of course it is. I mean, I talk about it. I talk about it all the time. It's very interesting finding out those parts that make up, that make up who you are and that tell the story of your family. So when I hear propaganda like the 1619 Project, basically saying that, all African descended people here were slaves, no, one, there's a good percentage of them that were not,
Mhm.
especially the ones that sailed with Columbus, including his navigator. Um, 1619 isn't really when slavery started. Actually, that
Mm.
started in 1565, if you include Florida. And with race, that was actually used as a social construct in order to construct the caste system over
Mhm.
here in the Americas. That's what happened. White people use that. Native Americans use that. Free Black people who owned slaves themselves, some which I descend from, so I'm not getting reparations whatsoever. uh, they use the same thing. So eventually, and that's where I thought we were headed in this country, away from race. And I didn't talk to you, Siri. Why the heck you pop? That's so weird. How does that? Moving away from race and more towards towards
Mhm.
nationalities. Which is what we're supposed to,
Mhm.
move through. But just like Booker T. Washington, and I
Booker
highly
T.
recommend
Washington.
everyone
Love him.
read his autobiography. If you go back and you read what he wrote, and also in response to W.E.B. Du Bois, you would
Mhm.
swear the same things were being said today. And Booker T. Washington said quite plainly, you have a group of people who will make their livelihood based on promoting grievances between between the races. If you
Mhm.
go back and Reconstructionist history is something that fascinates me, not just because there's a ton of records about my family from there, white, black, native, all of them, the
Mhm.
records and how they went. You didn't have, I would say, this grievance industry that you do now with respect to race. After during Reconstruction, most people were trying to find their families, trying to build their businesses.
Mhm.
There wasn't really this grievance industry, but that started to come out of that, where you have mostly with W.E. Du Bois and with and with Booker T. Washington, but the same thing of stirring up that type of strife instead of, like, say, doing it in the press and in, like, say, Jim Crow laws. Now you have entertainment
Hmm.
doing it. So I almost want to call it Jim Crow entertainment in a way.
Yeah. I don't know if you've seen my Proud Family video, and I only do episode 1, and I had plenty to cover just in one episode. And for anybody who's a fan of my channel that's watching, eventually there will be more Proud Family, but there are, I want to say, 16 episodes, and I would say each one of them has something unbelievable in it. Uh, that being said, there's a girl who just switches out the books every scene. She's got yet another book that's pushing critical race theory, or something about how technology, that she calls race a technology that is used to perpetuate racism.
Hmm.
It all gets self-recursive and self-perpetuating here. It's just so frustrating that there are so many different things that already here we have. Okay, you have a character in a show that's marketed to kids that's like, look at my booty, look at my front. I'm trying to be a respectful father here. Um, that by the time we've even had the conversation about the critical race theory, they're like,
Uh-huh.
we've already missed the other. What is this one? 16 minutes? I think it's 16 minutes. Um, I either way, it's above 10. There's just so much here that we don't even get to the idea that, okay, this is the father is useless. The mother treats him like garbage. The grandmother is shacking up with some guy who says in
What?
a show marketed to kids, he says, thank God for tequila. I'm like, guys,
Sugar mama?
what are you doing to me here? What
They've
are
got
you?
sugar mama shacking up with somebody?
Oh, yeah.
I can't believe I missed that. And I had the misfortune of watching several episodes, because
Now,
what people were telling me about it, I'm like, okay, let me see this for myself.
oh, this one, sorry, I misspoke earlier. This one's 10 minutes, but I I think my first draft was 16, and then I just cut out all the fluff, because I try to get as much in as quickly as possible. But yeah, Sugar Mama comes back from a long extended trip with a Hispanic guy. Uh, yeah, it's somewhere right after here. I'm like, guys, if I told you one thing that's wrong in this episode, which that's what it used to be. We used to have these big projections of, oh, well, this character is maybe they mean him as a satanic character. That's what they would say in the 90s, the satanic panic. It was, oh, well, if
Yeah,
you spell this backwards, it might spell something that sounds like Lucifer, and therefore they're pushing
right.
the devil. No, 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 no. Now we got shows that are literally pointed at teenagers, where the Church of Satan is coming through and suing them because they're using too much of their copyrighted imagery. Like, that's Sabrina. Sabrina, the production company for Sabrina, got sued for using too much satanic imagery.
Oh.
I just it's on overload. And there was a story in my local paper, and I don't read the local paper very much, but they were
Hmm.
pushing. The paper basically came out and said also that the local hospital together, they were endorsing transgender surgery on minors today. So I'm a little fired up. I should not be making any videos on my channel today, because I try to keep it matter of fact. And today I'm just having one of those days where it's like, no, no, keep it together. Don't get angry.
I hear you. And a part of me is even angrier. God, looking at this, because this show, The Proud Family, when it first came out, it was great. It had a positive depiction of a
Mhm.
black family. They were on great terms with, with their neighbors. Um, the grandmother, of course, she was crazy, but that's why we loved her.
Yeah.
Sugar Mama, she was good. Penny's parents, they obviously loved each other. They weren't disrespectful,
Mhm.
of each other at all. all the kids got along, yeah, they had the one white friend, but that was okay because she was literally part of the group.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were friends and had been friends, that if she was missing, you would want to know where the heck she was, because she was part of the group. Even again, I'm going back a little bit because it was actually fun. The one episode where I think they had to do like a battle dance with like these peanut characters or whatever. That turns
Mm-hmm.
out that the white girl was the one who actually won the thing for him. Like, it was hilarious. It was
And
absolutely
now
funny.
they have a beauty contest where they all dress up as the individual Disney princesses. So you've got the mom is dressed as Belle, I want to say,
Hmm.
and Penny is dressed as Tiana, and they're all just going. And I haven't gotten to this episode on my channel. I wrote an article for it on That Park Place, but Pocahontas wins, and I was like, who is this character? Have I not seen this character before? And then they announce, Michael, you won the beauty contest. So Pocahontas is Michael Collins, and it's a stunning rendition of Pocahontas, I will say. So they had the transgender boy, girl. I don't know. I think the official description is non-binary, gender non-conforming, win the beauty contest. All the while, you have all of this thick brand synergy from Disney laid on top of it. There isn't a character in that scene that you're not supposed to go, oh, that's Nala. Oh, that's Sir Hiss. Oh, that's Simba. Oh, that's Elsa. That's oh, I mean, they are using so much official. Like, look at what a good job Disney does. It it's it's corporate art becoming corporate propaganda, and I just don't want my daughter to look at that and go, oh, I want to be Pocahontas. Well, Pocahontas is a boy. Does that mean I'm supposed to be a boy? And meanwhile, I've got people in my comment section saying, children don't get confused by this stuff. They get confused by homophobes. Like, what?
You know what? I'm really getting sick and tired of people throwing that accusation, oh, you're homophobic. It's like, I don't have an irrational fear of you being
Mm-hmm.
homosexual. I just don't want to deal with your nonsense.
And I will say, LG and B, we can all live in peace, and there's no issue here. T, the idea that there is non-binary, disagrees with LG and B.
Hmm.
These do not get along. And for T to take over the LGB, y'all need to work this out amongst yourselves before you all try to experiment on kids. And I mean that in the figurative sense and in the literal sense.
Absolutely.
And that's as
Because
far
there's
as I want to go on someone else's channel
yeah,
today
I
on
will
that
just
one.
say there's, and well, y'all know how I do on this channel. Kids are off limits.
Mm-hmm.
Period. They're off limits. Children are precious, and it used to be that children's programming, there was extra special care
Mm-hmm.
taken with that, because kids are like sponges. They will soak up everything. But another thing that I have to give kids credit for is they have no filter when they see nonsense that they don't like. And
That's
they're like,
very
I'd rather
true.
go and, watch something else. Like I talk about my nieces and nephews. The only thing that they watch on Disney Plus, and I love this, the only thing they watch is Bluey.
Oh, Bluey. Oh, I love it.
I have watched so much Bluey. I mean, I was like, what kind of show is this? And then we sat down and started watching it, and I was in tears. I was
Mm-hmm.
laughing. And it was just fun to just watch something that you could see is obviously safe for your kids. Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing wrong with the fart jokes, okay? You can't laugh at a good fart joke. Sorry. You just, you need to find something else out about your life. But even just
Have you?
let's see, acquired, like here, just looking at the Nielsen ratings here for like acquired shows.
Mm-hmm.
Coco Melon. Are you familiar with Coco Melon?
Yes, I'm a father of four, so I'm very familiar with Coco Melon.
Coco Melon is making gangbusters
Yeah,
type
it
of
is. It is
money.
perfect for YouTube. I would love to know whether or not they make more money from YouTube or from Netflix, because one of those they have to be making bank. Because to say, hey, Netflix, we're going to be YouTube only, I'm sure Netflix would say, okay, no, here's $1 billion. I mean, that would obviously be too much to spend on a show. You're only going to spend that much money on a show if you're going to ruin Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Coco Melon, my child cannot get enough of it. It's super repetitive, but at the same time, it's sweet and it's kids songs and it's fine. Bluey, I love it when my daughter watches Bluey, because we look at it, and whether or not they realize it, they're going to look back on it and see that there is a whole other level of the parent experience
Uh-huh.
here. With like the baby race episode, I mean, near the end of that episode where the one mom looks at Chili and she says, "You are doing a great job."
Mm-hmm.
And what mother doesn't want to hear that? I mean, here I am yet again. Well done, good and faithful servant. This idea
Yes.
of validation, or Sleepy Time, to show this surrealist cartoon about this child wanting to orbit the warmth of her mother and coming to grips with the idea that she needs to sleep in her own bed. But in the score is Jupiter from the Planets suite. It's this beautiful, and I will resist the urge to sing it right here. But the music is just beautiful, and it's a preschool cartoon, but it's surrealist imagery, or it's all abstract in this idea.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I don't know anyone who doesn't look at that and go, "Oh my goodness, this is beautiful," and it's preschool content. This is how starved we are, that the pump has been primed for us all to be like, "Have you seen this preschool show?"
Yeah. Just nuts. But you're right. It's just like with Coco Melon. Um, and there's another one that I'm thinking of, and it's on YouTube. I cannot believe I'm drawing a blank, but it is literally the animation, and it is geared towards urban kids. Like you
Mhm.
have a hip hop soundtrack that's there. Again, it's repetitive, but it's teaching things, and they're learning about letters, and they're learning about sounds, and they're learning about history, and they're learning about music, and none of it is discriminatory.
Mhm.
It's just basically, I want to say, probably written by people who were like my age, like, hey, what was that one of those things that regardless of what color you were, everyone wanted to know more about it?
Mhm.
And that was
Yeah.
basically hip hop. Everybody, didn't matter who you were, as long as you liked it, it was cool. And that's exactly what that seems to be like. So you have these creators coming up with this content that people are finding through YouTube and other avenues, who are like gravitating to it. And Bluey, granted, that's from Australia, which is
Mhm.
another level, which I love it. Just, you're right. It's like on a with parents, it's like on another, another level. Like I remember the episode where Bandit took the kids out, and he didn't want to do the boring things. Like the mom says, oh, sometimes you have to do the boring things. Like, nah,
Mhm.
I got this. Took the kids to the pool, everything that they needed, he didn't have.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I don't have that. I don't
Stay on
have
the
that.
shallow end today. Stay out of the
Yeah.
sun. And
It
then
was,
finally the mom shows up, and
she shows up. Yes.
she's
I'm
got
sorry. Go ahead.
everything, and everything's fine. And if it were intent if the show's intention was to make the dad look like an idiot, then I would, if it were on Everything Woke, I would say emasculation of a father. But it's not, because it's very realistic, and they don't make him look like he's worthless. They don't make him look like he's an absolute idiot. Okay, he's a little dumb, but obviously he's more clever than his kids. And he's a great dad.
Hmm.
See now, it got me questioning whether or not it was right to even say the dad in Moon Girl was emasculation of a black father. But
Yeah.
Chili and Bandit, there's so much there that is just so relatable, and they have romance. They have heterosexual married romance, which is something that Hollywood even struggled with when they weren't being so overtly woke. I can think of one time in my long history of watching movies where I saw and you know, I'm never for them putting a sex scene in a movie because I'm like, guys, you know, whatever. I'm a prude, whatever. Call me that. I'll hold my hand up there. I don't need to be looking at some other woman and thinking, hey, while I'm a married man. But 300 had a heterosexual married sex scene, and I was like, why have I never been in a movie where this has happened before? And I wasn't young at the time that I ended up seeing that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody from church give me trouble for having watched 300. Nobody, no, but but here we are, Bandit Chili, this ideal marriage, these people that maybe they're a little overindulgent with their kids, but also they tell their kids no, but also they tell parents, hey, try to stay off your cell phone. It's it's great. It's aspirational for me. Huh. Oh, by the way, I wanted to ask you this. Have you seen the banned episodes of Bluey that Disney Junior refused to show in the United States?
Besides the Ford episode?
There's two. Well, I guess there's three now.
Okay.
The there's one called I believe it's called Dad Baby. It's hilarious. It's a little weird. Doesn't necessarily belong on Disney Junior, but it's hilarious. My kids have
Uh-huh.
seen it, and it's fine. But you know, it was kind of like parental guidance suggested. I won't ruin it for you, but the basic
Okay.
premise is that Bingo decides that she wants to be in the baby carrier is on Bandit, and he pretends to be pregnant with Bingo for that episode, and hilarity ensues.
I
It's
think I
not,
saw part of that.
and then there's another one called Teasing, in which the dad teases the kids, and it's perfect. It's wonderful, but maybe Disney will get some sense and put more Bluey content out there. They need content anyways. They're struggling to fill up their streaming service.
Yeah, they do. I'm just people are like, do you watch Disney Plus? I'm like, well, I get Disney Plus for like 1 cent, which I think is
Mm-hmm.
overpaying for it anyway, because I have Hulu. Hulu I've had for like years.
Mm-hmm.
I consume a lot of content on Hulu. Disney Plus, I'm only going over there if I want to watch classic Disney cartoons, if I want to get my fix of a goofy movie, if I want to do that, or I want to watch Bluey, just for fun. But
Goofy,
no.
Goofy is another great example of a great fatherhood film. They don't talk about the mom, I don't think at all, if much, but that's such a great little exploration of father and son dynamics. Beautiful movie, and it was from one of their underestimated studios.
Yep, that movie, a goofy movie, that one is classic. I could watch that one over and over and over again and not be bored, especially the part about the possum jamboree.
When I was little, I was like, how did they get away with this?
I know, it's great. Oh, well, and speaking of great, Jonas, it was wonderful, so wonderful having you on my channel. So please do let the folks know where they can find you.
Well, I am an investigative reporter for That Park Place. I like to write articles. I've been a little tied up with some of my new work, being a producer for WDW Pro over on his channel, and also for Valiant Renegade. And then I have my own channel, which is Jonas J. Campbell. Thinking about renaming that one, since it seems to be very focused on one singular subject. But if you really want to talk to me, I'm on Twitter, and probably on Twitter a little too much. I'm not too hard to get a hold of there.
Okay. All right. Well, folks, I will have all of Jonas's social media links in the description box of this video. So please do follow him on Twitter, subscribe to him on YouTube. Definitely make sure that you are checking out thatparkplace.com for some great stuff that's there. Great investigative work being done by Jonas.
Oh,
So
well, thank you.
you are very welcome. And of course, you have an open invitation to come on the channel because yeah, we need to talk some more about this Disney children's programming
Oh my.
going on.
I, I will go on forever.
Ah, I'm there for it. Well, thank you so much for being here, Jonas. I appreciate it so very much. Thank you for being here. And thank you guys for watching. Please do make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed to my channel, and we will see you next time. Bye.